You got a gun, you got a big gun, you got a gun, it's not a real one, and all you ever think about is running away, all you ever think about is trying to stay away from me.
And welcome back to another episode of the Loudmouth MMA Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Steele. Today, we have another edition of MMA Yesterday, as Mr. Matthew Hitchcock and I cover UFC Ultimate 1996, also known as UFC 11.5, their second tournament. Hello, Matt. Welcome.
What's up, buddy?
What up? I really wanted to talk shit about Nate Diaz right there, Diaz right there, but I didn't.
You can't do that to me on the podcast.
I know. I was going to, and then I didn't.
If you don't think Nick Diaz is the GOAT, lose my number.
I'm excited for everyone to message you and say that you are wrong. All right. Ultimate 1996.
Good card, man.
This was a really good card. They needed this. They
Yep.
needed this after, I think, we've had a couple kind of weird
9 was shitty.
little walked out. And then, again, this was still hot and heavy McCain era. So, and this one started with a parental advisory. I'd never noticed that before.
Yeah.
I don't know if that had happened in any other card.
We hit a milestone, too, that you've been waiting for.
We did. We hit something that I had been waiting for to happened today.
Yep.
And it might have happened in other cards, but not this pronounced.
Not to that degree.
Like, I was waiting for one that was this pronounced.
For the record, we're talking about a big comeback. We'll get to it. But yeah, we're talking about the first real big comeback.
But yeah, this was a little card. So let me give you some backstory here. So the attendance was 6,000 for this one. The buy rate was 120,000, so we're back up. We're back up in the normal range. This took place December 7th, 1996. It's called Ultimate. No, I'm not stuttering. It is literally called Ultimate, which I find really bizarre, but that's what it's called.
The G-Man named it.
I assume that the G-Man named it. And if you haven't been listening to the episodes to catch that reference, then you're dead to me.
Lose my number.
Can that just be our thing?
Yes.
We just keep telling people to lose our numbers over nothing. But yeah, Ultimate. So we had 95. This is 96. We're going to have at least one more of these.
I think at least one. Well,
we might have two more.
Maybe two. I think they count UFC Japan like this.
Okay, it's like their version of Ultimate.
Yeah, it might
in Japan.
be two more.
I think it is UU Japan. I think that's how it's labeled, so it must be. Yeah. So we're guessing two more. I don't think we have any more than that.
Yeah.
Ken Shamrock is back in this card, which is kind of cool. We haven't seen him in a while.
A bunch of good guys are back.
A little bit of backstory here. Before this fight, Ken Shamrock actually appeared on Late Night with Conan.
He's been gone for a while too. This was good to see him back in there.
Well, that's a big deal. Being on Conan is a big deal in this time.
It's so crazy to think that
he's the first. He was basically
on TV then. That's
he's
so
the
crazy.
first guy, really.
Yeah,
because he had an American fan. Listen, I don't think he could have done that with Hoist. Really, nobody would have been interested.
No.
It needed to be some white dude from Jersey.
I come here to prove jiu-jitsu is the best.
Yeah, it wouldn't have wouldn't have flown.
Yeah,
but a guy like Ken, right? He has the wrestling. Like
he's a showman,
like WWE F or whatever wrestling, like he or WCW, whatever he was in,
whatever it was.
But he has that. He's a showman. Yeah. He's
good talker,
jacked out of out of his mind.
Good talker, no neck,
jacked to the gills.
Got all the credentials.
His traps have traps. At one point, did we see Brian Johnston? It looked like his traps had abs.
They did. It was weird. They had like fucking bumps on them.
His traps have abs.
He was so jacked. It's crazy.
Gosh, Brian Johnston was a
If you're listening
maniac.
to this episode, Brian, you looked shredded for this event. Good Lord, man.
Buddy. All right, let me look. We're back to the 8-man tourney, of course. That has not changed. I guess the big thing about this card before it started was, Mark Coleman, who at this point was kind of the reigning guy. He was the guy, basically.
Yeah, burst onto the scene real recently, and he's top of the top right now.
He was the guy.
And he's sick, so that sucks.
Yeah, and he had to pull out, which is really sad because this is when, more than likely, I don't know, my guess, you could have very easily seen the Mark Coleman Ken Shamrock fight that never comes to fruition.
There's a couple fights here that never happened that could have happened.
Mark Coleman Ken Shamrock is one that jumps out at me that I really would have loved to have seen.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that jumps out at you at
I don't think Coleman ever fought Fry. I could be wrong. But
Okay, I'll look.
I'm not sure. I don't think
I will look in a
Fry.
moment.
Yeah,
but that's a good one.
That's another great fight.
Any other ones involving Ken that you don't remember we get to see? He fights both Fry and Severn. Fights Hoyce.
Yeah, I don't know. Did he fight Tank? Not that it really matters, but it's a big star back in that day.
I think Tank could have. Let me look. I don't think he did.
Oh, yeah. Also, this is the one with Mark Coleman on the poster, and he's not on the card, isn't
Well, because he pulls out like the day or two before.
This is that one.
So he had. It doesn't say this on the wiki page. He had to have been replaced by
Cal Worsham.
Cal Worsham. There's no way that was like planned.
Because this was the ultimate. Like it was for finalists and winners only, right?
Yes, basically yes. Because that was the whole thing when they interviewed Scott Ferozzo. I'm looking forward to get to that.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Let me look real quick. Ken never fought Tank.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Never happened. Yeah, never happened. Okay. Let's get in the actual card itself. I'm excited to talk Scott Ferozzo. I should have pulled the clip. I probably still could. I should pull the clip and play it. Because that interview, can we just talk about it?
Oh my God.
Okay, so halfway through this card, Jeff Beck, who,
Bruce Beck.
It's
you made my
Bruce
mistake.
Beck. Yeah. Bruce Beck, Jeff Blatnick are the commentators for this card. Both do a perfectly fine job.
Yeah.
Blatnick just stumbles a lot.
Yeah.
If you listen to him, he just all the time he'll be like, and here's Kalen. He's talking about chemo. He's like, here's Kalen coming up. Like he stumbles a lot.
He's fumbling.
He is. But Beck is a dude.
He's really good.
Now I knew the dude was straight profesh. When he is interviewing Scott Ferozzo, it goes to a whole new level. Like, dude, he was doing some Ariel Helwani shit. Like,
he really was.
He was in the most calm way possible, trying to get Scott Ferozzo to like punch him in the face.
Yeah,
seriously. Literally, he ends the interview by going, "Thanks, Scott. Don't ever push me again."
It's like, hey, good talking to you. Have a nice evening. Don't push me ever again.
But he doesn't even say it forcefully.
I know.
He
It's just so weird.
He goes, "Yeah, Scott, to talk to you soon. Don't ever push me again." And then the interview ends. You're like, "Whoa, dude, that was a bizarre interview."
And like 5 seconds before that, Scott's like pushing the mic out of his face,
dude,
like pointing at him.
Because Scott's talking a bunch of shit about how he wanted to be on the card and he couldn't be on because he beat Tank. He had somewhat of an argument. I beat Tank.
Yeah.
Tank is in the finals. Why am I not a part of this?
I'm with him.
I could have beat Tank again.
I wouldn't have been upset if Scott was in there instead of Tank.
Instead of Cal Worsham.
Or Cal Worsham.
Instead of Cal Worsham. Right?
Yeah.
Why is Cal Worsham in there?
He's there. Let him
get
fight.
him out. Is it just because he came out wearing like the tank top, the blue like Nike tank top that said like Fight Max or something?
Oh, geez.
Is that why they wanted him around?
Yeah, maybe.
Although the fight with Tank though was really good.
That was the most 90s outfit.
But that could have been Scott Ferozzo.
Could have.
Right? Why not? Why not Scott Ferozzo?
Been.
Maybe not should, but
I think it should have been.
More so than Cal Worsham.
He had the best fight on the whole card, last card, right? Wasn't that the last card?
Yeah, it was. And it was such a good fight.
It was such a good fight.
The Tank Ferozzo fight was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so Ferozzo, really good on the mic. Really good on the mic. I don't know what the rest of his career does, but he's really, really good on the mic.
I'm becoming a fan.
That's good news. I definitely became a fan in that interview. But anyway, so he's talking a bunch of shit about Tank. And then Jeff Beck goes, well, what about, who did he lose to? It was Jerry Verlander.
Yeah, it was Bolander.
Bolander. He goes, no, what about Jerry Bolander, though?
I want to talk about Bolander.
Because I want to talk about that. That's history. He goes, so was the Tank fight. And then Scott shoves the mic out of his head. Dude, that was good job.
I love it.
Good job, Beck.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was really good.
All right, let's get into the actual card itself, shall we? First fight on this card was the aforementioned... No, it wasn't. Ken Shamrock, Brian Johnston was the first fight.
Yeah.
Ken Shamrock, Brian Johnston was the first fight. It was the third longest fight on the card to include the alternative bouts.
Friend of the podcast, Brian Johnston, out there.
And it was 5 minutes and 48 seconds.
It's a cool fight.
Third longest fight at 5 minutes and 48 seconds. It barely lasted what would now be a round, and it was the third longest fight on the card to include the alternate bouts. Bouts.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know about the alternates.
Yes. The longest fight on the card was Gary Goodrich, John Fry at 11 minutes and 19 seconds. The second longest was Chemo Paul at 9 minutes and 6 seconds. And then it was 5:48.
And then everything else was like under 2 minutes, right?
Well, so then you have on the alternate bouts, you have a 4:46. And then outside of that 1 minute 22, 1 minute 03, 20 seconds, which we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah.
The semifinals in this card was as much of a cluster as anything we've seen so far.
Oh, yeah.
Both semifinal fights are against, and again, we'll get into detail. Both semifinal fights are against alternates. Both fights involve alternates.
And they both go quick.
And they both go real quick.
Yep.
Because neither one of those guys had any business being where they were, especially Newmark.
Props to stepping up, though.
Props.
Yeah.
But
he stepped in on short notice and fought Tank Abbott. You got to give him some respect for that.
Shit, I guess.
I wouldn't fight Tank Abbott tonight.
I guess.
I wouldn't fight him right now.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't know he was going to fight Tank. I mean, he showed up there, won his alternate bout, so he's probably feeling pretty good.
Even if it wasn't Tank, just look at the guys it could have been. Like, it could have been Tank, it could have been Fry, it could have been... Any of those guys is scary for him.
What might have... I'm not going to do that. All right. So, but anyway, Ken Shamrock, Brian Johnston, I mean, it was a fight.
Yeah.
Ken Shamrocked him. I mean, there's no way around it.
Broke his hand, too.
But he broke his hand in the fight, which is why he doesn't fight in the semis.
Yep.
Which is important. I mean, because this is another thing. So how I said that Ken Shamrock never fights Mark Coleman, which I'd have loved to have seen. That has to be one of the most coolest fights that just never happens.
Biggest missed opportunities.
Right? Just never. It should have happened.
Do you know Ken Shamrock had a heart attack in the ring one time?
Really?
Yeah, in Pride.
Seriously?
Yeah, they had to stop the fight because he had a literal heart attack.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
He's okay? He's still alive?
Yeah, no. He I think it was Fujita. You ever heard of Kazuyuki Fujita, Ironhead?
It sounds vaguely familiar.
He beat this dude so ruthlessly for so long that he gave himself a heart attack.
Wow.
That's true.
Wow.
True shit. They stopped the fight because he was having heart palpitations and his heart was quitting on him.
This was definitely not that.
Yes, no, certainly. I got off on a tangent. My bad.
But he breaks his hand in the fight, which we don't learn about till later. But he gets Brian Johnson out there with a nasty forearm choke.
Breaks his hand and still gets the finish.
Yeah. Ken's the shit, man. But so not only do we not see Ken fight Coleman, which I would have loved to have seen, I also don't believe, and I've said this before on past podcasts, and it's proven again right here, and I'm pretty sure without going through and digging, Ken Shamrock never wins one of these. He wins the super fights, okay? He wins super fights and he gets that belt or whatever.
But the tournaments.
I don't believe he ever wins a tournament, which is so crazy to think about.
He's one of the top 2 or 3 guys you'd think always has a chance to win.
And he fought at UFC 1, which means he's been there since quite literally the beginning.
Yep.
And just doesn't win a tournament because he keeps getting injured. I think he would have won this tournament.
Think so?
I think he would have won it.
Possible.
Listen, what he would have done is he would have gone on and Ken would have fought Tank Abbott.
What do you think would have happened, though, if it was Coleman? Like Coleman, Ken? I think Coleman beats Ken. I really do. If that fight happens,
so too.
I think so.
I think so too. Because Coleman, obviously, the wrestling is.
So let's say Coleman's healthy and he fights on the card. That's even worse chances for Ken at that point.
It's true.
So Coleman being out really helped his chances, and he still couldn't get it.
He still couldn't get it because he got injured again. He gets injured in almost all of these.
For such a submission expert, you got to quit punching guys in the forehead, bro.
I know. You can't.
Just grab his leg.
Keep breaking her hand.
We know you're good at it.
God, he keeps breaking his hand. All right, moving on down, we have Tank Abbott taking on Kyle Warsham. This is an interesting fight because of what happens after it. So it's pretty much...
It's a weird one.
I mean, pretty much Tank just thunder strikes him.
Yeah, real quick.
Over and over and over again. And then finally...
Doesn't he end it officially with like a forearm choke kind of?
So, no.
Oh, wait, no, yeah, this is the
strikes. He's basically striking, and Kyle Warsham being, at least having the wherewithal, he taps out.
From the bottom, yep.
As Big John is pulling Tank off, clearly it wasn't even a question. Tank or Big John had his arms around him. Mm-hmm. He was pulling him off, and Tank decides to get in one last little jab, and then also pushes his neck, and he pushes him hard, man. That wasn't a little push. That was
he shoved him.
He shoved him, man. He shoved him, and he kind of put him in the chin and underneath the neck and stuff.
And he's already on the ground up against the fence. He's got nowhere to really move.
And he's hurt. Yeah. And he, when you push someone and their head's up against that, there's nowhere for the force to go.
Yeah.
So you're taking all that. It probably hurt.
It sucked.
It probably hurt. You know what I mean? And for no reason. It didn't seem like they had bad blood. It didn't look like they had bad blood beforehand. And even if they did have bad blood, once you're in there, it needs to stop. And this is a thing that we've seen from Tank in the past. And Tank goes on quite the losing streak moving forward. And I will say, I like Tank. I think he was a really fun fighter. he was a prick.
Yeah.
He was absolutely a prick.
That's part of his allure back
But
in
that's
the
a
day.
part of what I guess you loved
He's
about
like
him.
maybe the first heel.
Basically.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
he was a prick. The way in the Cal Orson fight, we forgot how it started. Tank literally tries to throw Cal out of the cage. He's lifting him up. His body is halfway out of the cage.
He's holding on for dear
Cal's just
life.
on top punching Tank Abbott in the face.
One arm punching, one arm holding the top of the fence.
Exactly, to keep from getting thrown over, which would
Crazy.
have been so incredible.
It's so crazy.
How fun would that have been? But he could have killed him. Like that Tank is crazy.
He's
man.
crazy.
He was a little prick, but he was fun. He was a fun guy for sure, but he was just a little prick.
I'll say this about Worsham, though. He seemed more fired up at the end of the fight than he seemed at the beginning.
Yeah, why did you tap then? If you had that much energy,
Yeah.
shit, why didn't you keep trying?
Where was all that energy going into the
Exactly.
fight?
Well,
Yeah.
you see that in like a recent fight that comes to mind was Shevchenko Nunes, right? And when the fight ended, they both were like screaming at each other, and you're like, you guys had 5 rounds to do this, and nobody did anything.
I thought the same thing.
Like, why didn't you, like, all this energy you have, use it 3 rounds ago?
Yeah.
Why now are you, the fight's over now?
Did you forget how to tell time?
Yeah, the fight's over now, and now you have all this energy, and like,
Now you're upset. Now
yeah,
you want
it
to
doesn't
get...
make any sense. And that's almost what it feels like. If you had all this energy, bro, why didn't you use it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess, listen, if Tank Abbott's on top of me, I'm tapping too, clearly.
Maybe.
But it's just
But,
weird.
Yeah.
Then he wanted to fight him again. And he kept,
he stands up and wants to fight again.
I just love that Big John, though. Big John gets in his face and goes, cut the bullshit. And then he goes over to Tank. He goes, hey, that was some bullshit. You hear him like 4 or 5 times saying the word bullshit.
I know.
To
It was
people.
awesome.
It's so funny.
It's so
And
funny.
at the end of when Tank fights in the finals, and we'll get to it, but when Tank fights in the finals, Big John, when he raises, I don't want to say what the end of it, but he pushes Tank, like shoves him out. And Tank doesn't do shit.
Yeah, no.
Big John he's the man. Like, seriously. Like, just leading, and everything we've seen from him.
the bullshit.
Dude, when he yells at people, he said the F word?
He takes scary grown men and dads them.
Yeah, dude. He
That's
goes,
what-
get over here.
that's what he
you
does.
Stand right there. It's so great.
Yeah.
This is his job, though.
He dads the scariest dudes in the world.
I mean, that is his job, so I
Yeah.
guess he's doing it right. All right, moving on. We have Don Fry taking on Gary Goodrich, our longest fight on the card. And because it's our longest fight on the card, Gary Goodrich obviously quits from exhaustion because how else does he lose?
I think this is one of 3 fights in a row. I think this is the second of 3 fights in a row where
If
Gary
he can't
loses.
get you out there in 3 or 4 minutes, he's out.
He loses like 3 times in a row via some form of being
Fatigue.
tired.
Fatigue. Yeah, he gets out of there from fatigue.
exhaustion, and then I don't know what you would call the other one.
But I will say, and I have seen the fight, Gary does get his revenge on Don Fry.
Oh, yes, he does.
He does get his revenge on Don
And
Fry.
he gets it-
Not today,
he gets
but in
it
the future. He
way
gets it.
worse.
Yes.
He gets him back.
He gets him back for having to tap from fatigue. There's really nothing to say about that fight. It was a fight.
Yeah, if you want to talk about the rematch, we can talk all day about that.
Yeah,
one.
but this one, there's really not much
Yeah.
to talk about. Don Fry controls him and tires him out, and Gary finally just taps because he can't do shit. He's tired.
For the other listeners out there that may know about this, or maybe you don't know about this also, I used this card and these Gary fights as an opportunity to show Kyle Gary versus Pedro. When Gary attacks
foot
that guy's
in the
nuts.
foot in the groin, the foot in the cup.
One of the gnarliest
It's a
things
man.
ever.
It's a man right there.
Jeez.
All right, so the last fight in the quarterfinals was Chemo. Chemo makes his return back to the UFC as well. You know, he's been kind of inactive, and he's fighting Paul Varelans.
Here's your comeback.
To me, again, I've seen all these cards. I can't think of another fight that stands up to this.
I'm 100%
Keith,
with you.
I'll leave it to Keith. Keith, you tell me if I'm incorrect, and I'll fix it on UFC 12. This was the first legitimate comeback.
Chemo spends 8.5 minutes
I mean,
of
literally.
a 9-minute fight on the bottom getting the shit beat out
Chemo
of
was
him.
on the bottom for 8 minutes, and he's not on the bottom in the way that like when Hoist would be on bottom.
No, he's getting effed up.
He's getting elbowed. He's getting punched over and over again
by a man who outweighs him by 100 pounds.
He's getting headbutted. He's in there, yeah, outweighed by 100 pounds on bottom for no joke. I don't know if it was 8.5, but I'll at least say 7.5.
It's at least like 8 minutes
It's
of
at
beating.
least 7 to 8 minutes. And he's on bottom, and then all of a sudden
Hits that sweep.
reverses it. Elbow, 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 elbow,
And they
elbow.
are so
Fight's
nasty.
done. Paul Varelans done.
nasty elbows and punches to the
eyes
head.
rolling in the back of his head. He's done.
It was crazy.
I mean, that is the first legitimate comeback that I can think
Chemo's
of.
face is all busted up. He's bleeding everywhere while they're trying to raise his hand.
Exactly.
He can barely walk.
Barely stand.
They got to carry him out of there, essentially.
Right?
What a comeback.
Can you think of a comeback that was up to this point?
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
No.
This was the biggest. I think this was, and I would consider this to be the first comeback.
The first, yeah.
Because I can't think of another fight, even if someone's like losing, then they win. A comeback is not you're losing and
It
win.
wasn't like
a comeback
this.
is more than that. Like it has to be you're really losing.
He was
and
down
then
and
you
out,
win.
and he pulled it off.
Am I correct on that?
I agree.
When you say a comeback, you're not just talking like you're down on the scorecards by 2 and you get a finish in the third.
No, when I think of a comeback,
you're getting the shit kicked out of you and you come back and win.
I'm talking like Tim Boach, Yushin Okami, like Anderson Silva, Chael 1. Like those are comebacks.
Well, you are just getting the shit kicked out of you.
Like you're down like 3-4 rounds going into the 5th, and then you pull it off.
Sure.
Like that's what I'm talking about. Or you're just getting relentlessly beaten.
Modern MMA, you're talking Darren Elkins.
Oh yeah, Mirsad Bektic.
Bektic,
What
yeah.
a great fight.
Yeah.
What a great comeback.
You're talking stuff like that. Like that's what we mean, and that's what this was.
That shit made Joe Rogan tear up. It was so
Yeah.
epic.
Chemo was getting the shit kicked out of him.
He was
seriously.
losing.
He was absolutely getting destroyed. And Paul Varelin should have finished that fight 3 times over. Just couldn't get it, and then got reversed. Done. So good for Chemo for getting that.
Probably the best fight on the card, I'd say.
So Tank is able to fight again, and Don is able to fight again, but they're on different sides of the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Shamrock was supposed to fight Tank, couldn't, and in comes Steve Nelmark.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chemo clearly couldn't fight again, so in steps Mark Hall. So the first fight in the semis was Tank, Steve Nelmark.
Y'all want to see a dead body?
Yeah, because I know where one is.
Yeah.
It's on UFC Fight Pass.
Legend has it Steve is still laying there crumpled up against the fence to this day.
Legend has it if you walk into the Alabama or the Birmingham Convention Center and it's on a dark and stormy night, you can hear the cries of Steve Nelmark. You can hear Steve Nelmark's head scraping down the cage as his limp body falls to the canvas.
If you turn the lights off in the bathroom and say Tank Abbott in the mirror 3 times, he'll show up and knock you out like that.
God, dude, that was brutal. Okay, so now a little bit of a milestone. Outside of the Gary Goodrich fight, this is the most brutal thing we've seen.
Oh, yeah, this was
Right?
nasty.
There's nothing other than the Paul Herrera, is that his name?
Oh, yeah, you know what? Paul Herrera Gary is up there.
Other than the Gary Paul
Top 2.
Herrera.
Top 2.
Other than that, this is the most brutal thing we've seen. I mean, that was nasty, dude. It has to be a GIF.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Just Google Steve Nelmark.
Steve Nelmark, Tank Abbott, KO GIF.
Oh, that was brutal, dude. He just whole body limp, scrapes down the cage,
slumped against the
body
fence.
folded in a way that your body's not supposed to fold unless you're dead.
Oh, yeah.
Like unless someone's shoving you into a barrel, like Breaking Bad style, your body's not supposed to bend like
And
that.
then Tank goes full Tank, looks down at the lifeless corpse, and
smiles.
smiles at him.
He's such a douche.
What a character,
He's such
man.
a prick. I love it. All right, and then Don Fry goes up against Mark Hall. Mark Hall had no fucking business being in there with him. We're cussing so much on this, and I'm not meaning to.
Whatever.
I can't help it. Don Fry, Mark Hall ends in 20 seconds.
We're fired up.
Don Fry leg locks him.
He leg locks him
In
with
the most
like
basic, banal leg lock in the
day
world.
one leg lock.
Yeah.
Like it just grabs his calf
Just
and flexes
twist
it.
Yeah, that's all it is. And he taps, and he starts grabbing his knee in pain. He's like, oh no, and he's like,
He
laying
looks
on the
legitimately hurt, and
God.
I'm watching it with like little to no jiu-jitsu experience, and I'm like, you shouldn't have put yourself there, buddy. Shouldn't have let yourself get leg locked.
How did
like
that happen?
That was basic.
So our finals is Don Fry, Tank Abbott. Would you say so? Don Fry had an 11-minute fight, but then a 20-second fight. Tank only had 3 minutes of fight time, but Tank clearly looked like the lesser. You know what I mean? Like he looked tired going into that.
He's carrying around so much extra weight.
He looked so tired.
Yeah.
And Don Fry literally had quadruple the fight time. More than quadruple.
That being said, Tank had plenty of gas to come out and throw some bombs at his
He
face.
knocked him down, dude.
Early. With a jab.
This is what I would call like a slight comeback.
Yeah.
Because Tank knocked him down
He dropped
once.
him with a jab like 30 seconds
and then
in.
stumbled him once or twice more.
Yeah, it was all
so
over him.
basically 3 kind of clean shots he lands on Don and One of them literally sends his ass to the canvas.
And then out of nowhere, Tom Selleck just drops him and slaps that choke on.
Gets that rear naked on the baby and gets him out.
That's awesome.
Gets him out. So, now, see, that they're right there. I'm glad that fight was on this card for this reason. This will explain what a comeback is. That's not a comeback. In my mind, that is you're losing and then you're winning.
That's a come from behind victory.
Exactly. There you go.
Yes.
It's there's a difference between how I'm classifying what a comeback is and a come from behind victory.
You got to be real down and out for a
You're
comeback.
behind, you come back and win. Congratulations. Chemo could have died and was still able to win.
He couldn't walk out of the cage.
No.
And I mean, the finish, but it's like from the time that he got the finish to the end of the fight, it's like 20 seconds.
Would you say that maybe the first comeback in all reality was Hoist Chemo?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Chemo's involved in 2 comebacks. One where he's on the losing end, one where he's on the winning end.
Yeah, sure.
I would say the first, but again, I don't know if that's not the same level of comeback.
Yeah, because he wasn't really like that far ahead of Hoist. He just was more powerful. He was bigger and stronger.
Knocked Hoist out of the tournament.
Just held him down.
And that fight knocked Hoist out of the tournament.
Yeah.
And then, he had trouble walking out of the cage.
Yep.
But again, it's not to the same degree.
Not at all. Not even close.
No. That was like a come from behind victory, like +1.
Yeah.
So if you play D&D, it has like a +1.
Like the worst thing that happened to Chemo in that Hoist fight at all was he got his ponytail ripped out.
Sure.
The worst thing that happened to him in this fight against Paul Varlins is he had to fight a literal fucking polar bear. Like
Sure.
Paul smashed him up.
Yeah. Well, alrighty, man. We kept this one under 30 minutes, which is what my goal was.
Wow.
Let's do
That's a first.
It is. We're at like 27 minutes, which is perfect. I like keeping it there.
What can we fill this time?
Well, let's do right. How do we go over? Let's do a real quick look ahead to UFC 12. UFC 12, we will have a very, will we? We will. We will have a very special interview for UFC 12.
We have a couple milestones on UFC 12.
We do.
Some really big ones. All right. Tell me if I'm wrong here. I'm just going off memory. I'm not looking at the page.
Go ahead.
We got Vitor.
Yep.
We got Randy Couture. Tell me, Randy. No. Okay, then Randy might be on the next one. Go forward one for me, just because I'm crazy. Go to 13.
Well, here, hold on. Just wait for that. Let's do UFC 12.
So Rogan 12, right?
Yep.
Rogan and Vitor.
Yep.
And I thought Randy, but I guess I'm wrong. What else?
There's another milestone here.
What is it?
Weight classes.
Oh, really?
Lightweight finals and heavyweight finals.
Wow, man.
Weight classes, buddy.
First weight class.
There
event.
it is.
Wow.
We're getting there.
We are.
And the debut of the first fighter who is still active in the UFC.
We don't like to date these. We'll just say it's 2018 right now. Vitor's still active.
Vitor's still active in the UFC. Well, now, we've had guys that are still active in MMA, but we're talking this is the first guy who's active in the UFC. Vitor Belfort made his UFC debut at UFC 12.
Think about how many guys you've watched go through their complete career rise and fall in the time.
Then he fights at heavyweight.
Dude, he's such an animal.
He is. And he gets probably the first. So we had our first kind of comeback here, right?
Yep.
And this card, don't say who it is if you remember. Don't say it. We'll save this for next week. But we have probably our first like legitimate upset. Like big upset where there's no way that anybody thought he was going to win this fight.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. It involves Vitor. So tune in next week, guys. Again, these are always an absolute blast. So please come back.
Please.
And support. Next week, big interview. I'm not going to say it. Get away for next week to figure out who it is.